All right, we're moving on to chapter 9 today. So we're doing 9-1. First thing I'd like you to do, take a look at this getting ready problem. Read it, pause the video, and see if you can answer the question there. Okay, so assuming you paused it. It says, as a cat walks along the railing of a balcony, it knocks over a flower pot. The function h of t, so it says t is a function of height. How long will it take the flower pot to reach the ground? Okay, and if it falls from a height of c feet. So how can I figure this out? Well, it tells you that it's 64 feet, so c is 64. So I'm going to say h of t equals negative 16t squared. And you're always going to see this negative 16t squared in any problems that involve, gravity, basically. So we got negative 16t squared plus 64. And I want to know when it's going to hit the ground. So h of t is the height after t seconds. So when the height is 0, that means it's hitting the ground. So after that, I'm just going to try to solve this. I'll shrink this up. So I'm going to solve this. And how would I solve this? Well, I would add 16t squared to both sides. And I would get 16t squared equals 64. Okay, from there, I'll just write it over here. 16t squared equals 64. I would divide by 16. Okay, get this 16 out of there. And I get t squared. 64 divided by 16 is going to be 4. And then the last thing I would do is take the square root. And I would actually get two answers here. T equals plus or minus 2. But you can't have a negative 2 seconds. So we can just disregard that negative there. So t equals 2 seconds. All right, moving on to key concept. It says a blank is a function that can be written in the form of blank. So this is a quadratic. We'll just write the word quadratic there, but it's really a quadratic function. Can be written in the form of y equals ax squared plus bx plus c. Okay, just building on chapter 8. And this form is called the standard form for a quadratic equation. So we have standard form for a linear equation was ax plus by equals c. A quadratic equation still has a, b, and c, but it's ax squared plus bx plus c. All right, so these are all examples. As long as there's a 2 here, and that is the highest exponent, it's going to be a quadratic equation. There's a couple other little things that we'll learn, but it's going to be a quadratic equation. And the simplest quadratic equation is y equals x squared. Okay. The graph of a quadratic equation is always going to be a U shape. A linear equation is a straight line. A absolute value equation is a V shape. And this curve is called a parabola. Okay, and the equation y equals x squared is shown at right. So it's shown over here. So this is y equals x squared right here. And something that you probably need to know when we're graphing is that a parabola is symmetrical. Okay, so if you fold the sides in half, that is called symmetry. Okay, so you can fold the sides in half along the axis of symmetry. All right, and right here, I'll just make a dotted line over here. This is the axis of symmetry. And the axis of symmetry occurs at x equals 0. That would be this line right here, x equals 0. Okay, the highest or lowest point of the parabola is the vertex. Right, so if I just drew a parabola over here, this would be a minimum because that's the lowest point. If I drew one that looked like this, that would be the maximum right there. The vertex is the highest value there, so that'd be the maximum. Okay, what are the coordinates of the vertex? Moving on to problem 1. Well, the coordinates of the vertex, this is over 0, up 1, 2, 3. So 0, 3. And then it says, is it a minimum or maximum? Well, this is a maximum because it reaches this maximum point right here. Over here, this is a minimum. It reaches this lowest point, and that would be over 1, down 1. So it's 1, negative 1. So that would be the vertex. Okay, what is the vertex of the graph at right? Is it the maximum or minimum? Pause the video, try that one. All right, press play, see if you got the right answer here. It is left 2, down 3. So negative 2, negative 3. And it is a minimum because that is the lowest point. Okay, now we're going to get into graphing. Graph the function y equals 1/3 x squared. Make a table of the values. What are the domain and range? So domain is all the possible x values. Range is all the possible y values. All the possible y values. So let's look at this. It tells you to graph it. It's already been graphed here, but I'm just going to point out some things. Whatever this number is, we're going to be multiplying it by 1/3. So it's a good idea to pick some values that are not going to result in fractions when you're done. After you practice these a few times, you'll see kind of how to do that. But I'm going to plug in 0. So 0 squared is 0, and 0 times anything is 0. So I get 0, 0 as one of my points right there. 0, 0. I'm going to plug in 3. So 1/3 times 3 squared. And 3 squared is 9, and 1/3 of that is 3. So my other point is 3, 3. Right there. Okay, this will be 3, and this graph is going by 3s. So 3, 6, 9. And then if I plug in 6, I get 6 squared. I'll just write it here this time. 6 squared is 36. I already squared it. And 1/3 of that would be 12. So I plug in 6, I get 12. That would be this point right here. Over 6, up 12. Right there. Okay, and then what I can do is, if you see these little arrows over here, since I know that a parabola is symmetrical, and I know this is the axis of symmetry, I can just get another free point over here. I just go across and I make the same exact point over here. Okay, so I didn't have to pluck those points in over here. I just knew they were there because a parabola is symmetrical. Okay, the domain and the range. Well, if I look at these arrows here, well, these arrows are going to mean that this thing just keeps going and going and going and going. So the domain there is all real numbers. So the x values could be anything. You could plug in anything for x and you'll get a y value. However, the y values never drop below 0. So you would have to say the y values are greater than or equal to 0. Okay, so that would be the range. All right, last one for today. We're going to break this down into 2 days, 9-1 and 9-2. Graph the function y equals negative 2x squared, and what are the domain and the range? So if I graph this function, I probably want to make a table for this somewhere. So I'm just going to make a table over here, and I'm going to plug in some values. And just pick 0, 1, and 2 would be fine. Okay, I'm going to scoot this table over a little bit so I have some room to show some work. So when I plug in 0, I get negative 2 times 0 squared, and that is going to be 0. So now when I write this as a coordinate point, this is going to be 0, 0. So I'll graph that point over here, 0, 0. When I plug in 1, I get negative 2 times 1 squared. And 1 squared is 1, and negative 2 times 1 is negative 2. So I plug in 1, I get negative 2. So this is going down 2. Okay, then I have negative 2 times 2 squared. And negative 2 times 2 is 4. So I get y equals negative 8. So 2 negative 8 would be right there. Still recording a video. Make sure you guys go out and then close the door for me, please. Okay, I'll be right downstairs in 2 minutes. So I have this side of the parabola. Can you close the door, Tyler?
Sure.
Thanks, bud. Okay, so I've graphed half of this parabola, and this opens downward. Real Shay, easy. Are you a monkey? Go downstairs. I'll be down.
She's pretend she's choking. No more. If you want to.
Okay, then what I can do is I can go right here, and I can reflect this point. So this point is reflecting. So now I have the other side of this parabola. Okay, so this goes here to here. And I can reflect this point also. So this is 2 away from my axis of symmetry. I'll do my axis of symmetry in purple here. So this is my axis of symmetry. This point is 1, 2 away. So I can go 1, 2 away over here. And I can get that point right there. Okay, so to get these points in orange, I just reflect it across the axis of symmetry. All right, and a couple things about this. It opens downward, so therefore it has a maximum. And the vertex here is going to be 0, 0. So it's a maximum, and the vertex is 0, 0. All right, so we'll leave off there. Your homework is, if we scroll all the way down, kind of a long document here, scroll to 9-1. So find it. It is going to be page 37. Okay, so what we're going to do here is we are going to do 1 through 6. And we are going to do 11 through 13. Okay, so your homework is 1 through 6, 11 through 13. These things we're going to talk about on day 2, so we don't need to do 7, 8, 9, or 10. All right, see you guys next video. Good job keeping up with the work. Everyone submitted the test, and most of you guys are all caught up on Khan Academy.